Today you're gonna learn something that is really difficult, especially for a guy like me who is a reflector. It's bishop and rook versus knight and rook, where the bishop is the strongest piece. And this is in Carsten Müller's terminology known as the Fischer Endgame, because Fischer won a lot of games proving how to play with the bishop when the bishop is superior, and it's very instructive, and it's also very hard to do, especially for players like me that like intuition and general principles, because you have to see far ahead and calculate a lot with some sort of vision, because it can easily go wrong. And therefore it's one of the most difficult endgames to master, in my opinion, but it's also necessary to master. First of all, we're gonna take a little bit about the general principle. Here we have a typical, this is the game you're gonna see. It's Booby Fischer versus Mark Taimanov. It's a classic game from 1971 where Fischer just whitewashed him with 6-0. And this is one of the games that Taimanov lost. And I think after he lost this game, he was totally morally bankrupt. He had no chance of coming back after losing this game the way he did. But what we can say is that bishops tend to be better with pawns on both sides. That is, pawns on both sides are good. Bishops are also pretty good against knights when there is a fluid pawn structure. That is, we have seen that before, that knights can sometimes be swamped by the pawns, and this is could be one of the examples. Knights are pretty good with sort of broken structure or fixed structures where it can find a safe haven to sit. And we're going to take a look at an example that is very similar to this game after this game has been seen. The guy with the bishops usually have also better chances of putting the knight into zugzwang, since knights can only go very shortly. So the knight needs stable positions, where the bishops are kind of good in sort of these kind of long range positions where the bishop can attack from afar. In the middle game, I'm not sure the bishop, I think the bishop actually likes stable positions, especially the bishop pair. But that's a completely different discussion. Let's get into it. We will start from the beginning just to see the whole game. Fischer starts with e4. That was his main move until he met Spassky in the World Championship match. And Taimanov is well known for, yes, the Taimanov variation. Actually, I think nowadays the Taimanov variation is this, but what he mostly did was actually to play with a6 and knight e7 without queen c7. That is nowadays considered very bad. And white is actually in a lot of lines prepared to go into similar stuff in the Rossolimo with a clear tempo down, and still thinks he's much better. So the sort of the understanding has shifted a lot in that respect. Anyway, g3 is a serious weapon against the Taimanov. In most Sicilians, it's a playable, rather passive positional line, but here is kind of it contains a lot of venom. All this is well known, and this is, I think, still the main line to take here. And white here goes and disrupt black with this move. If black is just allowed to put up his position, he's fine. So you better disturb him a little bit. And ready to push some pressure here. I think that the threat here is this move. So and maybe also this move. So e5 and bishop d4, they didn't do that later on, I can say. And he took on c5. And all this is, I think the theory have moved a little bit on these things, but it's still interesting. And f4 threatening to go here. And we say that if nothing bad happens to black, then he could hope that this would be a bad bishop. Hope. it's very difficult to give Fischer a bad bishop because he calculates so well. That's one of the things that he will outcalculate you. And rook here and knight here is also common stuff. And here he plays e5. I think I don't know if I like that move. It's based on some sort of tactics, but there's a check, and he has to go. And queen e2, and take, and here we reach the position we saw in the beginning. And it's clear that white is better. He's got this bishop is pretty good, and it's going to be pretty good in this structure, and he has a very active rook. There are some weaknesses in black's camp, maybe even this one. So it's clear that black has some issues, but how bad can it be? It's a more or less symmetrical pawn structure. The knight should be able to find a spot. Here, unfortunately for Taimanov, he made a serious mistake immediately while entering this. White is threatening here and here, but only one of the threats are serious, and that's the threat against the c-pawn, because that would just be a clear extra pawn. So here black should play this move as indicated by Carsten Müller, and he's more or less okay. He's trying to set up a much more aggressive setup on the queen side than what he gets in the game. The problem for white is that this will lead to a lot of exchanges and a probably draw. Instead, he did this, and this looks very, very normal and natural. Getting the pawn on a black square, it can never be attacked by a bishop, and keeping your structure nice and easy and so on looks very natural. There's a problem though. That is, after this move, you already have to do this move, and this was definitely not the point. Problem is, I don't know if Mark missed that this position was bad, or he didn't understand it, or what was going on. Anyway, he was maybe hoping to play this move, but then after this move, threatening both places, he will lose a pawn. So he has to go a5, seriously weakening all the white squares, giving this bishop a free range everywhere. The thing is with bishop, if they can't attack anything, maybe they're not that strong, but look at how Fischer goes around this. Bishop here attacks the pawn, rook has to take cover, king goes up, king goes up, king goes up, and here white is basically just ready to get something going here, and it will be very unpleasant for black. So he tries to get rid of the active rook, goes here. There's no reason to go back, because sometimes the rook can go here. So this is a much better square for it. Knight here. And we're gonna look at how black would love to put his knight. He's, by the way, it's of course definitely not good on d7 where it's on a white square. So white will maybe play bishop b5 and threaten to give a check here. So grouping makes sense. c3, and that probably had to be played anyway, because black was maybe threatening to go here. So now with this pawn, it's not possible. Rook back. There's still no moves coming. King back, and a4. Making completely sure that nothing bad can happen on the queen side. Black cannot do anything on the queen side now. This is obvious. This bishop will always be nice on these squares. It was not really necessary to do it yet. This is not a serious threat, but it could be. So why not just stop it and so on. Knight here, and there are a lot of entry points. These are the entry points. The king and the knight controls those squares. But there is one square that they don't control, and that is this square. So that's a problem for black. h3. White have time, and this is something you often don't have with bishops. So this is something you should pay attention to here. There are plenty of time. No, go back. There are no good moves. You don't really want to push your pawn then, because there's this pawn is a weakness. So this is, if you move the f pawn, there's a check there. h4, and the idea behind this move is probably just to go h5 and g4 and put the king on maybe h4 and play g5, and basically you're pushing back black, and this rook will win something at some point because you're much more active, and the knight doesn't have a good square as it comes. So this is very logical, getting these squares here, but it also puts a pawn on white, and that means that this guy here, yellow, can now attack these squares here. So there's something for it to attack, not only squares, but also actual pawns. Check, rook here, and we see that white has a very nice rook, and already it's a big problem for black how to put his pieces here, because what to do? f5, that was not the point of h5, but it does of course prevent anything from going here, and it does take away this square from white's king. Still, it's not really what you like, but okay, you will have one weakness here and one weakness here, and some hope of covering it. Rook back, white has time. You can't really exchange rooks now. Rook f6, that's probably a nice way to sort of set up your pieces. Rook takes the e file, is further away from the king, so it's better. And here maybe rook, this might not be the best move. I think rook d2, and they found some, I think Müller found some forced win, but the way it goes, it's kind of, black really had some few chances to improve his overall situation. Bishop b5, and basically white can fish around and see, okay, is the rook ending good? Is the bishop ending versus knight ending good? Can I transpose into some sort of one king and pawn ending? And black just have to sit and defend, because white's got there's no targets on the white camp. The potential pawns that could be attacked are these ones, and you're not going to get near them. So white has a lot of options, while hoping, of course, to get to these two pawns that are the weak pawns. King e2. And white decides that the ending is good. And that's of course very, very interesting. And we'll take a little bit of look at that. The main thing to consider is if white is allowed to move forward with the king, if black can make some sort of blockade that will not be zugzwanged, and that's the problem. He cannot do that. But it takes a lot of far-sighted understanding, like Fischer definitely have, to see that. Okay, so is this really lost? Yes, it is. But it's very hard to see. The problem, of course, is that there is this pawn that needs to be protected, and then there is this square that the king can enter and attack the other weakness. So we'll make those red. And we'll see this one is going to attack something, and we'll see that play out nicely. Later on, we're going to see if there was a way, if black was lucky, that he could organize something. Knight e8 and bishop e8. Important move, just attacking the pawn, making sure the knight does not move anywhere. King d5, check, go back, and check again, and here, and we see the king is moving forward. Knight c8, that not only threatens a nasty check here, but it's also threatening checkmate. So it's not only a skewer, but it's also a mate. But, and please notice these things. And bishop here, and it's already nice. We see that this bishop is just a monster going around everywhere. And f7, bishop b3, and white has a lot of tempi here. Just now he put his knight on this diagonal to make sure that black will have to allow either access to this square or this square. And he gave, of course, this square, which must also be better. And notice how black is continually trying to get his knight to this square. This is a recurring theme. It doesn't help. It's not getting there. After something like this, you might just play, I don't know, you could play b3 or something, and black is in zugzwang. He has to move the knight, allowing this move, or move the king and losing this pawn. And again, zugzwang is a big factor. And bishop e8. So the bishop here is attacking this one and taking away this square. And this was, of course, the position white was aiming for. And here, of course, probably Taimanov had seen something that I can threaten the bishop. And when it moves back, I'll just move back. And there's no zugzwang, because the bishop here is intolerable. The problem is the transformation of advantages. Boom. Here. And this you can do yourself a favor and see and pause the video at some point and see if you can find a winning way for white in this position. The problem for the knight, which has been the problem the whole game, it is a slow piece. It moves slowly because it can only move like 2 forward and 1 to the right. So it takes a long time. That's also why knights have especially big problems against flank pawns. They have problems stopping these pawns. They hate them. That's also when they're flank pawns. You try to combine some kind of a check with picking up the pawns. It's very difficult with flank pawns. We just see it's going here, and well, hoping for some counterplay. e5, b5, king b6, very important move, simply threatening queen, king c8, king c6. Notice this, when there are this square apart, it takes a long time to give a check, and yeah, basically white will just play this move and this move and a7 or something, and black will lose. You can probably convince yourself. So this was a very impressive endgame by Fischer, and it's rightly named the Fischer Endgame. I think the name came when Fischer took on d7 with a knight against Petrosian in the later candidates final, where people was very impressed with that move because he had a bad bishop on d7 and a good knight, I think, on e5, and he just took the bishop, and then his bishop was way superior to Petrosian's knight. But there is something, why is this so difficult? It looked very easy, right? So let's see the next position, because if black is able, this is the complete same structure. If black is able to put up this structure, he has no problems at all. This is a fortress. The knight controls all entry squares, and there's nothing for the king, because this pawn controls these squares, and you can't get rid of this pawn. The bishop cannot attack anything. The only thing it can attack is this pawn. So black can basically go back and forth, and nothing will happen ever here. So this is a clear draw. It's a typical, and that's also why we saw that Taimanov was trying to get his knight to d7, d6, and Fischer was all the time keeping him occupied. So it had to land on this stupid square down here and making the entries for the king possible with this square. So this is what usually happens to me when I try to play the Fischer ending, is I make some sort of a slip up and black gets to put up this kind of fortress. And this is, when you're defending, this is the kind of fortress you're always looking for. The knight controlling all the entry squares with together with the pawns, and the king taking care of the rest. And it's a draw. And here, of course, it is a draw, but if anyone was better, it would have been black. This was GM Talks with the Fischer Endgame, a must-know endgame, something you would like to be able to master, but you probably have to be Fischer to be as good as this. This was GM Talks. Thank you for watching.